Morning light poured through the partly open blinds, casting thin golden stripes across our bedroom walls. The first thing I noticed was the cold, empty space next to me in bed. I reached over, expecting to feel his warmth, expecting him. But my hand met nothing but a patch of cool sheets. I whispered his name, Ryan, my voice still rough and scratchy from sleep. But there was no answer. I sat up, tossed the covers aside, and right away, something felt off. The room was too quiet. The air hung heavy, still, almost like it was holding its breath. My heart started to beat faster as I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and walked barefoot toward the bathroom. Empty. I moved through the house, each step slower than the one before. When I got to the closet, the door was hanging open, and that's when my stomach sank. Big empty spaces stared back at me where his clothes used to be. His boots, the ones he always left by the door like clockwork, were gone too. I looked at the top of the dresser. Normally, it was cluttered with his watch, wallet, and keys, but now it was bare. That's when a cold, uneasy feeling crept up my spine. Ryan wasn't just out. This wasn't a quick run to the store or a stop at the coffee shop. This wasn't him stepping out for work. He was gone, truly gone. I sucked in a shaky breath, panic blooming in my chest. I grabbed my phone, my hands trembling as I unlocked the screen. No texts, no missed calls. I hit his name and listened as it rang once, then straight to voicemail. My eyes scanned the room, desperately hoping for something, anything. A note, a message, some clue to explain what had just happened. But all I got was silence. No heads up, no goodbye, just an empty house and a growing fear that something had gone terribly wrong. But before we go any further, let's rewind a bit. To the night everything fell apart. McGregor's pub was one of those places that felt lived in. The smell of aged wood, old leather, and deep-fried comfort food lingered in the air. It wasn't fancy, but it was dependable, just like the regular guys who showed up after work. Ryan Lawson was tucked into a booth at the back, his go-to spot. A cold bottle of Sierra Nevada sat in his hand, little puddles of condensation forming on the table beneath it. He'd been working at Pineview Solutions for nearly 9 years. It was a tough job, physically draining, but it paid the bills and gave him a sense of routine. His buddy Jason, who'd been his closest friend at the company, was cracking up as he told a story about the new guy on the crew. "I swear," he said, leaning in. Thompson called him into his office, and the poor kid looked like he was about to confess to a bank robbery. Everyone around the table burst out laughing, including Ryan. Nights like this, in places like McGregor's, gave him space to breathe. It was a break from the grind, a moment where nothing was complicated. He took another slow drink of his beer, letting the crisp bitterness wash away some of the day's stress. Just as he was about to jump into the conversation, something shifted. He couldn't explain it, but a strange feeling settled in, like the atmosphere in the room had changed. His eyes scanned the bar, and that's when he saw her. His wife, sitting in a booth a few tables over, bathed in dim light. She was laughing, really laughing, and holding a wine glass filled with red. She looked relaxed, happy, but not with him. Ryan's hand tightened around the beer bottle as his gaze moved to the man sitting next to her. The guy was leaning in, his arm casually draped along the back of the booth. His body language said it all. Familiar, comfortable, too comfortable. And then it happened. Like the universe wanted to brand the moment into Ryan's memory forever, she leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't quick. It wasn't the kind of thing you could brush off. It was slow, personal. It said everything without saying a word. Ryan felt something deep inside him snap. The noise of the bar, the chatter, the laughter, the TV playing above the counter, all faded into a low, meaningless hum. In his head, there was only silence. A heavy, crushing silence that blocked out everything else. Jason was still going, still laughing at his own joke, completely unaware that Ryan's entire world had just flipped upside down. But Ryan didn't say a word. He didn't move. He just sat there, frozen, watching the truth unravel in front of him like some cruel prank the world was playing on him. His wife, the woman he thought he knew, was kissing another man, and she didn't even know he was watching. Without making a scene, Ryan slowly set his beer down. The cold bottle left a wet ring on the table, just a small circle of water, meaningless in the grand scheme of things. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and dropped a few bills next to his drink. Then, without saying anything, without even looking back, He got up and walked out of McGregor's. The night air hit him like a wall, sharp, cold, and real. The fire building in his chest made it feel even colder. His footsteps echoed on the pavement, calm and steady, even though his insides felt like they were coming apart. He didn't know where he was heading. But he knew one thing for sure: nothing about his life would ever be the same again. That night, after leaving McGregor's, Ryan barely closed his eyes. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of what he'd seen pressing down on his chest like a boulder. His mind kept playing the scene in a loop. The way her fingers wrapped around that wine glass. The way she tilted her head as she laughed. The ease with which she leaned into someone else. The kiss. By morning, there wasn't even room left for doubt. My wife had cheated. The only thing I didn't know was just how deep it went. Now, I've never been the kind of guy who flies off the handle. That's just not me. I've always been more of a slow burn type. Think it through, play the long game. I believe knowing the facts gives you the upper hand. So instead of storming into the room yelling, demanding answers she'd only twist around, I decided to be smart about it. I wanted the truth, the real truth. That meant bringing in someone who could dig it up. That's how I ended up meeting Ethan Brooks. And let me tell you, he wasn't at all what I pictured. When I thought about private investigators, I imagined some old guy in a wrinkled coat, sitting behind a smoky desk in a dark office. But Brooks? He was probably around 32, clean-cut, dressed sharp but not flashy. His eyes, gray and sharp, missed nothing. His office was small, tucked away off a quiet street. It smelled like old pages and fresh coffee. "You're just looking for confirmation," Brooks said after I laid everything out. "But let's be real, you already know." I let out a long breath through my nose. "I need solid proof," I said. He nodded, fingers tapping together like he'd heard that 1,000 times. "Surveillance, photos, video, time-stamped reports. I can even get into phone records if it comes to that. All quiet. All tight." "How long are we talking?" I asked. He gave a little shrug. "Depends how careless she is. Could be a week. Might take a month if she's cautious." Then he leaned in, real serious. "Here's the truth, Mr. Lawson. If you're sitting in front of me, your marriage is already over. You're not here to fix it. You're here to end it the right way." I looked him straight in the eye and nodded. "Find me everything." The days that followed felt like walking through molasses. I went to work, stuck to my routine, tried to act like nothing had changed. Every evening, I sat across from her at the dinner table, watching her smile, listening to her talk about her day like everything was fine. But every time my phone buzzed with a message from Brooks, I knew the mask was slipping. The truth was getting closer. Then one night, the first piece of evidence came in. Just one photo. I opened the message, stared at the screen, and felt my chest go tight. There she was, with the same man I'd seen her chatting up at the bar. But now they were somewhere else. A fancy restaurant across town. They sat close, leaning into each other, like there was something between them that didn't need words. Then another message popped up. Wednesday, 7:48 p.m. The Greenhouse Restaurant. I set my phone down carefully. My hands weren't even shaking. I wasn't surprised. This wasn't a slip-up. It wasn't some one-off mistake. This had been planned. Intentional. And it wasn't over yet. The investigation rolled on for weeks. Brooks didn't miss a beat. He was sharp. Relentless. Every few days, another piece came through. Photos, times, places. There was even a hotel reservation made under a fake name. Credit card charges that didn't match anything we'd ever bought together. I stopped sleeping. Meals barely touched. But I still hadn't said a word to her. I was waiting until I had it all. When Brooks finally handed me the envelope, I knew I had reached the end of the line. Back at my office, I laid it on the desk and stared at it. My hands were flat against the surface, steady. I already knew what was inside, but knowing something and actually seeing it are two very different things. I opened it slowly. The first page was a report, names, dates, addresses. A full timeline of betrayal. Then came the photos. Some were simple. The two of them at a coffee shop, walking close together, their hands brushing now and then. Others were more intimate. Left little room for doubt. Tucked in the back was a USB stick. I didn't even need to plug it in. I already knew what it would show. I leaned back, the weight of it all settling in. This was it. Cold, hard proof. No more what-ifs. My marriage was done. She just didn't know it yet. And when she did find out, it wouldn't be because I yelled or made a scene. It would be because I was gone. No arguments. No long talks. Just gone quiet and clean. Because I'm not some fool. I'm a man who waits. And now that I had everything I needed, it was time to go. That's the kind of man I've always been. Plan first, act when the time is right. It's how I made it at Pineview Solutions, how I handled our finances, and how I managed to keep my emotions under control even after finding out the truth. And that same patience? It's what helped me walk away without her ever seeing it coming. By the time she woke up, I'd already be gone. No goodbye. No note. No explanation. Just absence. That's all there would be. No fight. No big speech. Just silence. For weeks, I'd been quietly peeling myself out of the life we built together, bit by bit. By the time morning came, everything would already be set in motion. I had split the bank accounts, took only what was mine and moved it into an account with just my name on it. I shut down our joint credit cards and made sure every bill, electric, water, even the Netflix account, was now in her name. The divorce papers were done and dusted. My lawyer made sure there wasn't a single loophole she could twist. She'd get them delivered later that morning, long after I was gone and off the grid. Even my job was taken care of. My resignation email was timed to hit my boss's inbox at exactly 8:15 a.m. Pineview Solutions would roll on without me, just like I'd move forward without it. I had a small apartment lined up in another city, not fancy, just enough. A place where no one knew me. Somewhere she wouldn't think to look. Got a new job lined up, too. Starts in a few weeks. Every last detail had been handled. Nothing left to chance. By the time the sun peeked over the horizon, the version of Ryan Lawson she knew would be gone. It was 4:45 in the morning when I opened my eyes. Not that I'd really slept much. I sat up in bed, listening to the quiet. The only sound was her breathing, steady, peaceful, completely unaware that everything around her was about to change. I eased myself out of bed, moving slow, careful not to make a sound. My suitcase and duffel were already packed. Just the basics, some clothes, important papers, and a couple things that still meant something to me. The rest? I left it all behind. She could have it. Let her live surrounded by the pieces of what she broke. I paused for a second in the bedroom doorway, looking back at her as she slept. A few months ago, that might have torn me up. I might have felt some sadness, maybe even guilt. But now? Nothing. I was numb. My wedding ring was on the kitchen counter, right where I'd left it the night before. I hadn't worn it in weeks, not since the night I saw her with that other guy. It didn't mean anything now. Just a lifeless band of metal. The house still smelled faintly of lavender and yesterday's coffee. That scent used to feel like home. Now, it just reminded me of the lie I'd been living. I took a slow breath, adjusted the strap on my bag, and walked to the door. No hesitation. No second guessing. I grabbed the handle, opened it, and stepped out into the cool morning air. The door clicked shut behind me. Just like that, the chapter closed. By 5:10 a.m., I was behind the wheel, cruising down a quiet highway. The city I'd once called home got smaller in my rearview mirror with every mile. By the time she opened her eyes, I'd already be a ghost, nothing but a memory she didn't see coming. Her morning started off just like any other. She stretched out in bed, reaching over to my side, probably expecting to find warmth. But all she felt was cold sheets. Her hand hit nothing but space, and she sat up, blinking like she was trying to clear a fog. The house was too quiet. Yeah, I always left early for work, but I never left without making a little noise. The sound of the shower, a coffee mug on the counter, my shirt rustling as I got dressed. But that morning, not a sound. She swung her legs over the bed, bare feet touching the hardwood floor. There was a weird feeling creeping in, tight, uneasy. She made her way to the bathroom. Empty. She checked the closet. Half empty. That's when it hit her. Her breath hitched. She looked around the room, eyes bouncing from one empty spot to the next. She walked over to the dresser. My watch? Gone. Wallet? Not there. The boots I always left by the door, gone. My jacket, keys, the usual clutter in the living room, nothing. It all hit her like a slow, creeping wave. She snatched her phone from the nightstand, hands shaking a bit as she unlocked the screen. No texts. No missed calls. She dialed my number. It rang once, then straight to voicemail. Ryan, hey, where are you? Call me back. Her voice cracked a little, but she pushed it down, trying to stay calm. Maybe I left early for a meeting. Maybe my phone died. She tried to believe that. But I know her. Deep down, she already knew. This wasn't a fluke. Something was off. She hurried downstairs, checking every room, opening every door. The kitchen looked untouched. Coffee maker clean. No mug on the counter. That was strange. I always made coffee in the morning. Always. She opened the front door, stepped outside. My car? Gone. She ran back inside and called again. Voicemail. Again. And again. Her hands were shaking when she started calling around, trying to piece it all together. I can picture it clear as day. She scrolled through her contacts, pressed the number for my office, probably thinking she'd catch me at work like usual. The receptionist answered after a couple rings. Hey, this is Sarah Lawson. Can I speak to Ryan? A short pause. I'm sorry, Mrs. Lawson. Ryan resigned a few days ago. That must have knocked the breath out of her. I'm sorry. What? She said, like she hadn't heard right. That can't be right. Are you sure? Yes, ma'am. His last day was yesterday. And just like that, the ground shifted underneath her. I wasn't just gone. I had been planning this, preparing for it. The receptionist kept talking, maybe asking if she was all right, but I bet none of it registered. She hung up, probably on autopilot, and called Jason, one of the only people I ever called a real friend at work. Took him a while to answer. Hey, Sarah, he said casually. Where's Ryan? She shot back, skipping past any niceties. He hesitated. I don't know. You work with him, she snapped. You must know something. Jason's not a liar. But he's loyal too. I swear. He didn't say much. Just mentioned he was moving on. That's all I know. Moving on to where? Silence. A heavy kind. The kind that says I know more than I'm saying, but I'm not the one who deserves answers here. I wish I could help, he finally said, voice softer now. She hung up before he could offer anything else. Then came the flood. She called everyone, friends, family, coworkers. Most of them didn't know what to say. Some stammered, confused. A few avoided her calls entirely. Nobody gave her the answer she was really looking for. Panic started to settle into her bones, cold and thick like a storm creeping in. I wasn't at work. I wasn't picking up. As far as she could tell, I wasn't anywhere. She tore through my office, rifled through every drawer. Nothing. I'd cleared out all my files, all my things. Even the small stuff, the pen I always used, the worn-out paperback I kept on my desk. Gone. She checked the closet again, thinking maybe she'd missed something the first time. But it was still just rows of her clothes, empty hangers where mine used to be. The scent of my cologne was gone from the bedroom. Even my pillow had lost its weight. That's when it hit her. I hadn't just left for the morning. I had left her. Her legs nearly gave out. She clutched the edge of the dresser like she could steady her world by holding on to something solid. But that world was already slipping through her fingers. She called again. My number. One more time. Her voice cracked as she whispered into the receiver. Ryan, please. Call me. Just tell me where you are. But there was no beep. No message. Just dead air. She tried again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. A sob rose in her throat, but she swallowed it. She wasn't ready to fall apart. Not yet. So she searched. The whole house. Looking for something. A note. A clue. An explanation. But I left her nothing. No goodbye. No closure. Just the ghost of a man she once thought she knew. As the hours crawled by, it all sank in deeper. She ended up on the couch, phone clutched in her hands, staring off in nothing. She finally understood. I was gone. And it was her fault. She thought she had time. Thought she had control. She believed her secrets could stay buried, like I'd never figure it out. But I had. I'd seen right through the cracks. And instead of giving her a chance to lie one more time, I chose silence. I watched. I waited. I prepared. And when the moment came, I left. No fight. No final words. Just a door that closed behind me and a silence she'd never outrun. As for me, I kept driving. That long stretch of highway was like a ribbon pulling me farther away from the life I left behind. My job, my house, the marriage I once believed in, it was all back there now. Just shadows in the rear view. Ahead of me was something different. A fresh start. A quiet life without betrayal. Without the weight of wondering if the person sleeping beside me was still on my side. I didn't look back. I didn't let regret in. I'd spent too many nights feeling everything. Now, I felt nothing but the road beneath me and the peace of finally being free. It had taken me weeks, months, really, to untangle myself from everything I once believed in. From the life I'd built, from the lies I hadn't seen coming. But I did it. I slipped away without a sound. And now, it was time to start over. Greenville, South Carolina. That town was a whole different world from the one I left behind. No towering buildings, no nonstop noise, no haunting familiarity. Just quiet streets, coffee shops on corners, and the soft roll of the Blue Ridge Mountains hugging the horizon. I rented a one-bedroom apartment tucked above a bookstore. Nothing fancy. A little balcony where I could watch the world slow down. It wasn't much, but it was mine. No memories hanging on the walls. No ghosts hiding in drawers. Just silence. And space to breathe. I found work pretty quickly at a small engineering firm. A step down from where I'd been, sure, but I wasn't chasing prestige anymore. I wanted quiet. I wanted simple. No office drama. No late-night emails. No games. Just honest work and time to rebuild. My coworkers were nice enough, but I kept my distance. I wasn't ready to let anyone in. Not yet. My days fell into a rhythm. Early morning jogs through tree-lined streets, a cup of coffee from a little place that knew my name by the third visit, then long hours at work. Evenings were quiet. Books. Walks. Sometimes just sitting still. And for the first time in years, that stillness felt like healing. But even with the peace, there was a question that kept slipping in late at night when the world was dark and the quiet got too deep. Is this it? Is this what alone forever looks like? Then came that Sunday at the farmer's market. I wasn't looking for anything, just trying to fill the space. The weekends could get long when you had no one waiting at home. I was walking past the produce stand when I saw her standing there, holding a bundle of basil like it was something precious. She smiled at the vendor with this warm, easy kind of charm that caught me off guard. And then she caught me watching. "You should try the strawberries," she said, lifting a basket with a soft grin. "They're the best in town." I hesitated. "That's so?" She nodded. "I come here every weekend. Trust me." So I bought the strawberries. And just like that, something began. Her name was Lily. She taught 4th grade, had a heart full of patience, and a laugh that somehow made things feel okay. She didn't dig into my past. Didn't ask why I always flinched at certain questions or why I sometimes seemed a little too quiet. She gave me space, and in doing that, she gave me peace. We started seeing each other on weekends. Walks through town. Dinners. Late-night coffee talks that stretched until the stars faded. And little by little, I let her in. She wasn't anything like the woman I left behind. No lies. No double meanings. Just honesty. Just clarity. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt happy. Within a year, we got married. Just a small ceremony, under an old oak tree, a few close friends, no drama, no pretense. Just love. Real and simple. I never thought I'd want that again. Never thought I could trust someone enough to say those vows. But Lily changed all that. She never gave me a reason to doubt her. She was steady. Safe. When she told me she was pregnant, I felt something shift. Something big. Something good. And the day I held our daughter for the first time, man, it undid me. Those tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and I knew I'd made it. I had walked through the fire, crawled out of the wreckage, and somehow ended up here, in a life that felt like home. I made a promise right then, quietly, in the back of that hospital room. I wouldn't let the past touch this. I'd protect them, Lily and our daughter. I'd be the man they deserved. And I wouldn't let the ghost chase me anymore. For months, I didn't even look over my shoulder. I was too busy living. Mornings filled with giggles, nights spent rocking my little girl to sleep. The pain, the betrayal, it started to feel like something that had happened to a different man entirely. But the past? The past doesn't always stay buried. It happened one afternoon. Quiet. Ordinary. Lily had taken the baby to see her folks, just for the weekend. I was alone, the first time in weeks. I stepped outside to check the mail. And there it was. A car. Parked at the curb. I figured it was nothing. A neighbor's visitor. Someone lost. No reason to think twice. Until the door opened. And she stepped out. Sarah. We both froze. She looked different. Older. Thinner. Her hair was pulled back like she couldn't be bothered with how it looked. She wore jeans and a simple blouse, no designer flash, no makeup mask. But it was her eyes that hit me hardest. Wide. Nervous. Full of something I hadn't seen in her before, fear. I tightened my grip on the mail. My heart didn't race. It just sank. She stepped forward, barely a whisper in her voice. Ryan. I didn't answer. She glanced at the house behind me. I had to find you. My stomach turned the moment I saw her. Of course she'd find me eventually. I'd erased myself from her world as thoroughly as I could. New town, new name on the mailbox, no forwarding address, no social ties that connected us anymore. But Sarah, she was never the kind of person who took being ignored lightly. She always needed control. Always had to have the final word. And now, Here she was, standing on my street like she still had some kind of right. I let out a slow breath, trying to keep my voice level. How did you find me? She shifted on her feet. It wasn't easy. That part, I believed. I had done everything to disappear, covered every trail, deleted every breadcrumb. But if there was one thing I'd underestimated, it was her persistence. And now she stood there, looking smaller than I remembered. Almost like she was waiting for me to save her from something. Ryan, please, just give me a few minutes. There was a time when that might have worked. When her voice, soft and unsure, would have made me want to understand. But not anymore. Whatever part of me used to melt when she looked fragile, that part was gone. Still, I wasn't about to air this out in the driveway, not with neighbors peeking from behind curtains like it was a damn soap opera. Without a word, I stepped aside and let her in. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that comes from peace, from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be. There was still a faint trace of coffee in the air. Sarah's eyes moved across the room, pausing on the framed photos, Lily, our daughter, all the things she'd never been a part of. I closed the door and crossed my arms. Say what you need to say. She turned back toward me, her face caught between nerves and regret. I didn't know what happened, she said. One day you were just gone. That was the point, I said. Her expression flickered, something behind her eyes. Pain, regret, maybe both. I deserved an explanation. I laughed, short, cold, humorless. You deserved an explanation? I shook my head. You lost the right to explanations the moment you decided to betray me. She flinched, but she didn't look away. I wasn't thinking, Ryan. I made mistakes, but you left without even letting me explain. There was nothing to explain. She stepped closer. Too close. I still loved you. I felt a bitter taste rise in my mouth. No, Sarah. You didn't. You loved the idea of me. You loved the life, the comfort, the convenience. But if you really loved me, you wouldn't have done what you did. Tears welled in her eyes. She wiped them away fast, trying to keep it together. I've been searching for months, she whispered. I just needed to see you, to understand why you didn't give me a chance to fix it. I clenched my jaw, took a breath, because some things can't be fixed. Silence hung there for a second. Do you hate me? She asked. I let the question sit. For a long time, the answer had been yes. I had hated her. Deeply. Completely. But now? No, I said finally. I don't hate you, Sarah. Her eyes lifted, maybe hopeful for a second. You're just nothing to me anymore. That broke something in her. I saw it happen, but she nodded like she already knew. I walked to the bookshelf and pulled out a folder. Plain, manila. I'd kept it tucked away for months. Part of me never wanted to look at it again. But I'd also kept it for this exact moment, in case she ever came back. I held it out. You want to know why I left? Her fingers shook as she took it. What is this? She asked, voice thin. The truth. She opened it slowly. In the moment her eyes hit the first page, the color drained from her face. A photo. Her and him. Not the night I'd first seen them, but another one. Different place. Same look. Same closeness. His hand on her knee. Her smile, familiar and sickening all at once. She flipped to the next page. A restaurant. Her laughing at something he'd said. Him looking at her the way I used to, before everything shattered. Her breath caught in her throat. Next page. A hotel receipt. Her name wasn't on it, but I knew what night it was. The same night she told me she was working late. The charge had shown up on an old card she didn't think I still checked. Next. Screenshots. Messages. Words she thought had been deleted forever. Messages filled with affection. Inside jokes. Plans made in the dark. The kind of things she hadn't said to me in years. She kept turning pages, her hands shaking more with every one. I watched her breathing change. Faster. Uneven. Like the weight of it was finally starting to crush her. And I didn't say a word. She just stood there. Her mouth open like she wanted to speak, but nothing came out. Her fingers kept flipping through the folder, more photos, more receipts. Every page a hammer blow. Every piece of paper a truth she could no longer deny. By the time she got to the end, her hands were shaking, clutching that folder so hard, the edges crumpled. And still, silence hung in the air like a storm cloud that wouldn't burst. She looked at me. Her mouth moved again. Ryan, I didn't. I never. Don't. I cut in, my voice quiet, steady. Don't lie. Not now. She stopped. Her eyes filled up, tears clinging to the edges, but I didn't move. I didn't flinch. Because she knew. She knew there was no way to spin it anymore. No way to talk her way out of this one. The weight of it all just sat there between us. Thick, heavy, impossible to ignore. She kept staring at me like she was searching for something, some sign of softness, of forgiveness, maybe even love. But she found nothing. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. Just done. She let out a shaky breath. A tear slipped down her cheek. Ryan. Her voice cracked. I didn't say anything. She tried again, barely keeping it together. Please, just let me explain. Explain what? My voice was flat. Empty. She wiped at her face. It wasn't like that. I almost laughed. Just a soft, hollow sound. Not like that, I repeated, tilting my head like I was trying to figure out what kind of story she thought I might still believe. She took a step forward, reaching out for me without thinking. I made a mistake. I stepped back. Just a few inches. But it was enough. She froze. Her breath hitched. She looked down at the folder in her hands, then slowly let her arms fall to her sides. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. I didn't react. Couldn't. I thought we could fix this, she said, like the words could somehow undo everything she'd done. There's no we, Sarah. My voice came out sharper than I intended, but I meant it. There hasn't been for a long time. She closed her eyes tight, shoulders shaking. Please, she whispered. Please, Ryan. I'll do anything. Just tell me what to do. I stayed quiet. Then, without saying a word, I stood, walked toward the door. My steps felt slow, deliberate, like each one carried the weight of everything I had buried over the past year. She looked up, eyes wide and wet, pleading. But I didn't meet them. I just reached for the doorknob, turned it, and pulled the door open. The breeze outside felt cool, clean, like it belonged to a world I'd fought hard to be part of. And finally, I looked at her. Just once. My voice didn't shake. My face didn't soften. Get out. She gasped, just a small sound, like air caught in her throat. Her feet didn't move at first. She stood there, like she thought maybe I'd stop her. Like maybe, deep down, I still wanted her to stay. But I didn't. She stepped outside, slow and fragile, like every movement was too heavy. Then she turned back one last time. Her eyes were begging for what? I'll never know. Forgiveness? Closure? A miracle? I didn't give her any of it. I didn't look back. Didn't say a word. I just closed the door. And with that, it was over. The past, the pain, the version of me that waited for answers, I sealed it all behind that door. For good. What do you think? Was Ryan's silence the right call? Or should he have confronted her from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're feeling this story, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.